Colt's like, guys, are we clapping?
Hey everyone, sorry for the wait, but I have some amazing Viper statistic to share with you today. I watched 4 pro Vipers across 3 different regions to teach you how they play. It was really insane how consistent the Viper meta is across regions, especially when compared to my Astrovid, where we saw stark differences between NA and EU. Today, we'll be looking into how to play Viper on Icebox, a map she has a 100% pick rate on. I promise, if you can master her on Icebox, you'll rank up quickly. Firstly, we'll be looking into the statistics of where to place your walls and orbs. Then, we'll examine the idea behind the placement and how to play off of your Util. After that, we'll quickly look at how to use your Snakebites and Viper's Pit. Finally, as always, I'll give you guys some SoloQ tips for being that annoying Viper that is so tilting to play against. Getting into Viper's stats, I wanted to highlight how well defined the meta is for placing her Util, and chose Vipers from 3 different regions. Starting with attack, you can see what I mean. In exactly 90% of pro rounds from Berlin, Vipers placed their orb mid. Then, for walls, there are only really 2 options. Either the default B diagonal, or the straight A wall. I'll show you what these look like on a map, so now you know what I mean. The one other wall that's interesting is this yellow wall, but it won't have much of an application for your SoloQ games as it requires lots of coordination. I'll talk about it more later. Moving on to the defensive side, we see a very similar trend. The meta is well defined. You either place your orb on the one-way at B entrance, or on the plant spot. Then, basically, you do the default diagonal wall every single buy round. As you can see, there are many specialty walls on defense, but they're almost always used with specific intentions, either for an eco strat or if the Viper has ulti. Again, we'll get into this more in the analysis section. One thing to note that the pie charts do not show is that on defense, Viper holds on to her orb about 50% of the time. On attack, she throws her orb and places her wall basically every round, and on defense, she uses her wall basically every round as well. It's just the orb you'll want to hold on to sometimes. Now that we know where to be placing your Util, let's look at why we place it there and how to best play off of it. Again, starting with attack, there are only 2 real orbs you want to throw, and you need lineups for both of these. Most importantly is this mid orb. It can be thrown from many different spots, the most popular of which seems to be this. I recommend having a lineup because this smoke has 2 purposes. Of course it blocks the mid angle from boiler while pressuring the clandestine cross to tube. However, it also should obscure vision from under the tube and pressure the boiler cross, essentially forcing mid to be watched from 2 spots. Defenders are forced to watch the mid push, and also hold the tube/under push. Understand that the main point of this smoke is to deny info and force the defenders to watch it. You don't actually need to play mid for this to have an impact. In fact, you only really want to lurk through or push mid with the team 1 to 3 rounds per game to keep them honest and respecting your smoke. Next, let's look at one other orb you could throw. This lineup lands an orb right here. This is a super strong orb to take A with as it blocks the normal op peek and also serves as a one-way for under. Deploy this as you're pushing site to deny this peek from defenders. Now that we've covered attack orbs, let's look at the walls. You basically want to place this B wall about 2/3 of rounds, or this A wall about 1/3 of rounds. These walls' purposes are pretty obvious as they block deep sightlines and should be activated as your team takes and holds sites. Note that I see SoloQ players put diagonal walls across a site, but this is really trolling. Walls like this allow defenders to get one pick and then fall behind it. Never throw a wall like this unless maybe you're ulting as well. Lastly, this yellow wall that is used in some pro games makes for a really cool strat. You essentially throw this Viper wall, have a dart that clears back sight, and run up and Sage Wall Snowman. I even saw pros do a lineup to land your orb here that helps with the take. I wanted to highlight this because I saw multiple teams do this with lots of success, but I doubt this would be viable in SoloQ teams, only with a pre-made team. Now, let's move on to defense. On defense, you want to be playing B as Viper. You can solo the site. The only exception to this is that Vipers often played A on rounds that they ulted. To hold B, you have two options. You almost always want to throw this diagonal wall because it forces attackers to push through it twice to get to site. Then, you can either throw this one way, where you play close and jump spot, then fall back to site off of a pick, or you could put your orb on the plant and play to deny the plant. You want to mix it up and do each of these a few times a game. Knowing how to use Viper's controlling utility is key to playing her correctly. So is using her mollies and ult. To use her mollies, there are a few concepts you need to understand. Firstly, do not just save them for post plants every single round. If you can molly a corner and force out defenders, that is preferable. Secondly, did you know that you only need to wait about 1/3 of a second before a full health player can fully tank a Viper molly? If you are playing lineups, ensure that you either have teammates peeking with your Snakebites or combine it with your smoke. I'll show you some of my favorite lineups in the next section, so make sure you stay for that. Next, to use Viper's ult, the key on Icebox is verticality. When ulting on defense, you always want to place your ult on top of 410, pipes, or the B box to ensure it covers a full entrance to site. Also, your ult blocks your vision too. Make sure that either you or a teammate is watching to make sure that enemies cannot lurk through it. Lastly, as always, let's look at some SoloQ tips to playing Viper. The first and most important Viper tip is positioning. Both on attack and defense, a Viper's life is invaluable. It is nearly impossible to plant or retake without Viper smokes. Almost always prioritize your life over your teammates. This is why we so often see pro Vipers be the flank watcher on attack or give up the B site and spam plant on defense. My second tip is knowing your lineups. As the lurk, you'll often find yourself in flank or passive positions to defend the bomb from. If you only know one lineup for each site, it restricts your movement. For example, for the default B plant, I know lineups from B main, spawn, mid, and boiler. No matter where I am, I can deny a defuse without giving up my flank. Here are my lineups, but I highly recommend you make your own or learn Skypixel lineups, as I do want to make sure you remember them. Whenever you see me ping a spot, then look up, that's a Skypixel lineup. Essentially, you aim at the target, then place your UI at a specific angle relative to the vertical axis to get a set distance from your molly. I'll link a vid in the description that describes this in depth, as it can be confusing to learn. If she sees someone and they're pushing her, I can suck this and swing top ramp, and it's gonna be insane. I'll get 4.
Joke's over.
I'm dead. I'm actually so dead.
See?
Fine, don't get.
I told you guys.
But you're
I
so
called
good.
exact. That was a clip from my stream yesterday. Before my outro, I just wanted to shout out that I stream our matches and sometimes comp games where I try to explain what I'm doing at twitch.tv/BugsyTheBean. I'll have it linked in the description. Anyways, Viper is a necessary and lethal pick on Icebox. If you can master her, you are guaranteed to have the most impact whenever you get Icebox in comp. Her util is straightforward to place, and I hope this guide taught you the ideas behind it, but her positioning is difficult. You can only get good at her by playing her a lot and becoming an expert at ducking in and out of fights around her util. If you do it all right, trust me, enemies will be mad at you.
No way that.
What?
This guy is.
Where's Bugsy the Cringer?
As always, thanks for watching and consider subscribing if you made it to the end. See you next time.